Hi, everybody. Quick take here, kick off your week, and it is back to Iran. Oil prices up again. The ceasefire holding on by a thread. Lots of strikes. Iran against ships traveling through the strait. The United States against targets on the ground. Iran missile sites, drone sites coming from the coast in Iran. The Iranians hitting back against sites in the Gulf, American bases, Bahrain, Kuwait, and then strikes back and forth by Hezbollah into Israel, Israel into Iran, Iran into Israel. And everyone seems to be calming down, at least for the present moment. But clearly, we are not almost at getting the straight rail open and a broader deal. Why not? Well, I mean, some of this is because the Iranians think they're in a stronger position and are very happy to continue to delay. Hezbollah is essentially controlled by the Iranians, very different from the weaker, more autonomous proxies like the Houthis, for example, in Yemen, or like Hamas, for that matter. And so if Iran is ordering Hezbollah to engage in sending a few missiles across into northern Israel, they can do that, knowing the Israelis will respond. Now, the United States has tried to broker a ceasefire agreement with Israel and with Lebanon. That's very different from with Hezbollah. And while Hezbollah had not been engaging in direct strikes for a few days, suddenly they do. The Iranians more than happy to call the shots to get the Israelis to respond. They do, and then suddenly the Iranians have more leverage because you said it was going to be a ceasefire including everything, Lebanon, Hezbollah, not just US and Iran. Now, Trump told the Israeli prime minister, not just privately, very publicly, I don't want you to engage in return strikes after Iran has struck you. Doesn't matter if there aren't any injuries. He said, no, don't do it. The likelihood that Israel was going to listen was virtually zero, responding to Iranian strikes against their territory, irrespective of why it happened. And so Israel immediately responds with strikes against Iran. And then we see a new missile salvo from the Iranians, and then everybody says, okay, for now we're done. But this doesn't make Trump look very strong. Why? Because if he's the guy that wants a deal, you've got the Iranians scuttling it with their activities in Lebanon. You've got the Israelis directly refusing when Trump says, I want you to stop. Ultimately, when everyone has a potential stranglehold over the strait or to disrupt an ongoing ceasefire, the likelihood that you're going to get a breakthrough that would bring global commerce back to what it was before this war started is low. There's also the issue that while Trump really wants an off-ramp, it is becoming less urgent for him for a couple of reasons. First, the broader impact on the global economy and, yes, the U.S. economy and U.S. growth is already kind of baked in for the midterms. Trump is at 38% approval. It's the worst approval ratings he's had of either term or of Biden's term for that matter. And he knows that he's going to lose lots of seats in the midterms. That's already baked in. But also, the U.S. job numbers continue to be very positive. The markets continue to be at record and near record levels. So Trump doesn't feel a level of urgency to resolve this anytime soon, and actually believes that if he's capable of showing more patience, and some days he is and some days he isn't, and the fact that he doesn't really have any filter makes it harder for him to do that effectively, but still thinks that this will ultimately give him a stronger position to get a deal out of the Iranians that would make him look better. And in that regard, that means not only taking his time with ongoing negotiations, but increasingly when he's having these conversations with his own cabinet talking about, well, if they're not going to agree, I just need to restart military strikes against Iran again. That is extremely dangerous for the region. It's extremely dangerous for the global economy. But it is, I would say, a serious possibility out there that at some point in the coming weeks, if we don't actually get this headline deals that ends the blockade and gets the ships moving again, that Trump finally says, okay, enough already. I'm just going for another big 1-2 punch against the Iranians, because otherwise they're never going to take me seriously. Is that going to work? I wouldn't recommend it, but Trump is a risk taker, and he really doesn't like what he knows he's ultimately responsible for in terms of how this is going to end. And he keeps trying to change the context of not where he said that the Iranians were about to surrender and that this would be over within a matter of days or weeks, but rather putting in the context of Iraq and Afghanistan and World War II and all of these much longer, much more costly wars. He's not going to compete with those, but it is radically different from what he initially argued when the Americans and the Israelis got involved in strikes. So this continues to be a dog's breakfast in terms of the impact for U.S. intentions, policy influence around the world, strength of alliances. It would be nice to be able to end this. Better time to end it would have been months ago. Better time would have been not to invade it to begin with. Better time would have been not to have unilaterally left the JCPOA, the original Iranian nuclear deal. None of those things are possible anymore. So the hope is it's over now, but we are a little farther away right now than we were, say, a week ago. So we'll watch it carefully. We'll hopefully talk about some other stuff too. That is it for me.